I'm so happy to be here today. And oh my gosh, what a beautiful series of sharing and stories, Tam. Thank you so much for sharing World Pulse. You have so much love that you shared today with us all in so many ways, especially your beautiful poems. Thank you so much. Today, I'm going to be sharing a personal story and some encouragement. So I loved, Tam, what you mentioned about your encouragement through people who share on World Pulse. I think that's at this point in my life, that's where I find the most joy, is encouraging people. So many of us are, so many of you out there, those of you that are younger, I get a sense that there are people in all different, stages of life. But as I'm hoping to encourage those of you that are, perhaps afraid or anxious, hopeless, or all of the above, as you think about the decades ahead, I hope my words will help you look at and live forward. Old age for our great grandparents is now middle age for us. It's pretty amazing when you think about that. In just a few generations, scientists or sociologists tell us that we've added an extra 30 years to our life expectancy. We now have the opportunity to reinvent what I see and many of us see are very outdated versions of aging and retirement, the big R word. For those of us who have found our passions in life, retirement is not a word we use. We're doing what we're doing. This is our lives. There's a growing number of people, sort of like a movement in the 50 plus age group, and a number of them are here today. And I'm excited to connect with you all who are exploring and embracing new and more meaningful ways to live in your extended decades. Instead of stepping back and buying into the more linear view of things, I see that people are envisioning new and exciting ways to engage, to add meaning not only to their own lives, but to others, and in some way serve the world and find joy. I call these third acts. As many of the women today have shared, you can rewrite your life story. It's never too late. And that's sort of the topic I told Maria I wanted to talk about today. Pardon me as I take a quick drink of water. Okay, a little segue here. Some facts about lightning you may or may not know. So just give me a moment here as I sort of change the topic, but I think it'll swing back in and relate to what I want to talk about today. Lightning can strike twice in the same place, and sometimes even more. Lightning strikes 44 times every second around the world. This one really blew my mind. 1/3 of lightning injuries occur indoors. Lightning bolts are only as wide as your thumb, but up to 90 miles long. Love this one too. When lightning strikes a beach, it creates these beautiful little glass-like tubes. I haven't seen one, but I'm dying to find them. The same lightning that destroys trees helps plants grow by producing nitrogen. And a man once shared that lightning restored his sight. So no, my story is not about getting hit by lightning myself, at least literally. But I did a little research about lightning as I thought about the topic of life story reinvention, because I call my life's most challenging events lightning strike moments. I found these facts fascinating, and I'm hoping you do too, and you think about them a little bit more, even more in a way that they're sort of a metaphor for what we all have experienced in our lives. The fact that one of nature's and most destructive forces is at the same time a necessary transformative force. Like lightning strikes, Our lives' most painful and devastating experience and losses can be our aha moments, opportunities for very important self-discovery and growth. Like everyone here especially, I've experienced a number of lightning strike events in my 6 decades on this planet. The aha moments that have inspired me to make some really big changes across time, to course correct, to better align myself with my values or my passions. And as I look back, pardon me, every experience of my life, and I'm sure yours as well, the highs or the lows, were in some way transformative. In my business career, it was the side ventures, as Maria already mentioned. So it was the little breadcrumbs that I sensed that really drove me and were calling me all these years. But I never put the passions in front, and I never spent time focusing completely on what I knew I wanted to do with my life. Instead, I felt like I was fueling other people's passions, other companies' passions that I work for. But now, 3 years ago, it took a cluster, finally, thank you, of 3 lightning strike events to jolt me off a path. Pardon my little lightning puns, but I found it fun to think of. But they literally jolted me off my life path. I was on a path that was a good one, but it wasn't the one I was meant to be on. And if I had stayed on it, I feel now I would have been in some sort of a emotional, or at least a life prison of my own making. I was fueling other people's passions. I got a flash of clarity after these 3 events, and finally the courage to unearth really why I'm here and what I'm here to do. So, back to the topic of today, I really listened to this voice inside me that I had not listened to before, to rewrite my life story for my 3rd act. And as Maria mentioned in the introduction, I'm sorry it's so long. I didn't know you were going to read the whole thing, but 3 coinciding events that were a part of my 2018 spring, starting in April. I was diagnosed with a rare and commonly fatal cancer. I lost a business venture that I'd given my blood, sweat, and tears to. And in the not unexpected, but really unwelcome prep for becoming an empty nester, as my dear only child, Emma, prepared to leave home, all as I was about to celebrate my 60th birthday. These 3 events set in motion a process that put me on the path and journey I'm on now. I'm so grateful. It got me to connect the dots and uncover what I was meant to do in my life. So today I wanted to share 3 simple actions I took to rewrite my story and embrace my 3rd act as the most meaningful, joyful chapter of all, at a time when I could have just shut down and given up. The first is letting go. The second is opening up and digging in. And a third is a belief in a power outside myself that gave me courage and confidence to take leaps of faith. From experience, I'm sure you all know that when we strip away and let go of the negative thoughts, our regrets, our feelings of being a victim, and instead we choose to have the positive thoughts that I've heard so many mention today, gratitude, hope, deep appreciation for the simple joy of being alive, we really can change our lives. From the day I got my cancer diagnosis and the following 6 months of treatments, I had a lot of fearful, devastating moments, and mostly devastating thoughts. I said to a dear friend, my God, maybe the carousel may have stopped. Maybe this is the end for me. At times I told myself that sometimes, maybe I had caused my cancer from all the late nights, not saying no, thank you, Liz, the workaholic, perfectionist-driven behavior that I had had most of my adult life. I mean, I can't tell you the number of nights I heard the birds singing as I worked until dawn. What was I trying to prove? Was I really proud of that? The most powerful of all was the fear that my dear, darling 17-year-old daughter would not have a mother. Sorry. Telling her about my illness was singly the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. The beautiful thing was, though, and it all was so positive in the end, is that I learned how to let go. And I not only let go of negative thoughts, I let go of my need for control. I sort of thought of it like being on one of those people movers at the airport. So whenever I encompass something, whenever I get to something that's a challenge, I first think of letting go. The second thing and tool that I used was opening up and digging in. I spent many days, pardon, I don't, as a result of my treatments, I don't have a lot of saliva, so it takes a lot of water sips to get me through a talk. I spent many days and hours learning to live in the now and searching deep in my soul for the ways I wanted to live and how I wanted to live for all the days I had left on the earth. It was ironic that it was my cancer treatments that actually really forced me and gave me the time and space to focus on this. Part of my treatment was being put in this thing that sort of looked like a spaceship. It was a proton radiation treatment. And the first time I entered, I was hugely afraid, but I became excited about these times in my days that for 45 minutes, my head was immobilized. Literally, I was immobilized down to the table and I was unable to move, but I was also launched into the most meaningful moments in my life at that point. I took these really wild, extraordinary, emotional and visual trips into my future and have visions of beautiful moments around the table with my loved ones in the future, adventures to special places with my friends, imagining holding my unborn grandchild, all surrounded by light and joy. After 7 weeks of all of this, I was released back into my life with a clean MRI and a clean slate. With the miraculous yet sometimes daunting treatment behind me, I was filled with gratitude and optimism about my future. Finally, belief in a power outside myself gave me courage and confidence to take a leap of faith. It's in those months after my treatment and in the midst of shutting down the business I had co-founded that for the first time in my life, I spent some deeply focused time pondering and thinking about and reshaping and rewriting the story of my life. I fully embrace the fact that life had and will, and certainly again, serve up tough stuff for me, but each and every one of us know that. But I know that we hold the power inside of us to endure and thrive. With every challenge and every turning point, through every transition, we basically have two options. We can be the victim of what happens to us and hold tightly to negative thoughts and fear, or we can focus on what we can control and stay positive, grateful, open and wide open to your life's infinite possibilities. It's never too late to rewrite your life story. Now I know exactly where I want to be in my third act, and I am absolutely loving it. I hope that we all find the way to love every act in our lives. Thanks so much for listening. I want to leave you with the words of Elizabeth Edwards, sort of to follow along with my storm analogies. She stood in the storm, and when the wind did not blow her way, she adjusted her sails. I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Each moment we have in life is precious. Live and savor each one and love yourself, and the rest will take care of itself. Thank you very much.